How are you guys doing? It is Sunday, July 26, 2020, here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and today I want to get into the baseball games that happened yesterday, as most teams played their second games of the season. Additionally, UFC had its fight night on Fight Island for the third time in a row, and the WNBA just got started. So let me just take you guys down that way. But just to get started right now, I'm just going to go to baseball. And the first game that happened yesterday happened in Wrigley as they hosted the Milwaukee Brewers for the second time. And in this pitching matchup, neither starting pitcher would pitch more than 4 innings, as the Milwaukee Brewers pulled out an 8-3 win against the Chicago Cubs to get a one, as both teams are now 1-1. Former MVP Christian Yelich finished 1 for 5, but his one hit did end up being a 2-run home run that helped along in the end. Additionally, for the Chicago Cubs, third baseman Chris Bryant finished 0 for 5 with a strikeout. Additionally, and shortstop Javi Baez would finish 2 for 4 with a run. And like I said, the Brewers would end up winning this one, and they would even the series between the two at 1-1. And now moving on to the next game in the Central. In St. Louis, the St. Louis Cardinals would host the Pittsburgh Pirates for the second time of the season. But at the end of the day, the Cardinals were too much this game, as Wainwright would only allow the Pittsburgh Pirates to score 1 run in the second, as he finished with 6 innings pitched, only allowing 3 hits, and he finished with 5 strikeouts in the game, as the Cardinals pulled out a 9-1 win overall. And adding on to this, first baseman Pablo Goldschmidt finished up 2 for 5 with 2 runs and 1 RBI that came off of a solo home run. And with this, Adam Wainwright would have his first win of the season, and the Cardinals are now 2-0 atop the National League Central. Moving on to the last NL Central team, the Cincinnati Reds would host the Detroit Tigers for the second game of their series. And in this game, starting pitcher Luis Castillo came in big for the Reds, only allowing 1 run in 6 innings pitched, allowing 6 hits, but he struck out 11 in those 6 innings. They would eventually lose in the extra innings, as the Tigers put on 5 runs in the last 3 innings since Luis Castillo was subbed out, and then the Tigers were able to secure the wins in the later innings, which would help even up the series 1-1. Now transitioning to the AL Central, moving on to Cleveland, where the Indians hosted the Kansas City Royals. That game would go on into extra innings, as the Royals were the only team out of the two that would score a run, ending in a 3-2 win for the Kansas City Royals. For the Kansas City Royals, their starting pitcher Brad Singer would finish with 5 innings pitched, only allowing 2 runs and striking out 7. On the other side, Mike Clevenger would pitch 7 innings, only allowing 2 runs, 4 hits, but he would strike out 6. And moving to the batters as well, Francisco Lindor, Cleveland Indians shortstop, would finish 1 for 5 on the game, with 2 strikeouts, but he did have a defensive gem on defense, as the Indians just simply didn't have enough, and this series would go on to be even at 1-1. And moving to the south side of Chicago, the Chicago White Sox would take on the Twins for the second time in their series. Dallas Keuchel would take the start for the Chicago White Sox, and he would finish pitching 5.1 innings, only allowing 2 runs and striking out one in the game that he played. And of course, the Chicago White Sox would pull through in the end. They would score 4 runs in the 5th and the 7th inning, and they would take this game 10-3. And Chicago White Sox second baseman Leury Garcia would finish 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs, and he had 2 home runs on the day, which would propel the White Sox to this win. He was one of the better hitters of the night, of course. And now both teams, like I said, are even at 1-1. Now moving out to the East. Yesterday, the Red Sox would host the Orioles in Fenway, but the Orioles would end up scoring 5 runs in the first 2 innings, which would then put them in position to win 7-2 to even up the series. On the Boston Red Sox, Jackie Bradley Jr. would finish 2 for 4, and he would also have a web gem of a catch in center field. But of course, following this, the series was once again even. And moving to Tampa Bay, they would host the Toronto Blue Jays for the second time, and this time, after starting their run in the 6th inning, they would score 1 in the 6th. They would score 3 in the 8th inning to help secure the win for them over the Tampa Bay Rays, as left fielder Brandon Lowe had a 2-run triple, which would put them in this position anyway. And following this, the Blue Jays would even the series, despite Matt Shoemaker's performance where he pitched 6 innings, only allowed 1 run and struck out 4 for the Blue Jays. Now that series is even. And now to finish out the American League East, as the New York Yankees played against the Washington Nationals in Washington for the second time. This time the Nationals would get the upper hand. As center fielder Victor Robles would finish 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs and one run coming from a home run that he hit. He also had a double in the game, which would help put the Nationals on the board on two separate occasions. For the New York Yankees, James Paxton would only pitch 1 inning as he was subbed out after allowing 3 earned runs and 5 hits. And for the Nationals, Fedde got the start as Steven Strasburg was scratched immediately from right before the game started. But moving into what else going on, even though the Yankees lost, Giancarlo Stanton would finish 2 for 3 with yet another home run, his second on the season. Aaron Judge would finish 0 for 5 with a couple of missed catches and a couple of missed grabs on defense. But following the first game where the Yankees took out the Nationals evened out the series. Now the Nationals are now 1-1, tied with the rest of the National League East. And continuing on the National League East, we're going to transition to New York, where the Mets hosted the Atlanta Braves in a matchup between Steven Matz and Max Fried. The starting matchup was pretty good, as in Max Fried, he only allowed 2 earned runs in 5 innings, striking out 5. Steven Matz only allowing 1 earned run, striking out 7 in his 6 innings. And following the Mets' 2-run 5th inning, they had the lead up until there were 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th with a full count. And Braves knew in their DH, Marcell Ozuna would get his first RBI and his first home run for the Atlanta Braves, which would send it into extra innings. And in extra innings, the Braves would then score 3 runs to give them the win over the New York Mets. Going into the New York Mets, elite first baseman Pete Alonso would finish 1 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. And going to the Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr., their center fielder / right fielder, who would go on to finish 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Ozzie Albies, the Braves' elite second baseman, would finish 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Freddie Freeman, the Atlanta Braves' elite first baseman, would also finish 0 for 3 with a walk. Like I said, it was a very tough series. It was a very tough game for both teams, but the Braves did eventually inch this one out, and now both teams are 1-1. Just like the Marlins and the Phillies now, after their second game where the Phillies hosted the Marlins, the Phillies were able to squeak out a home win, winning 7-1 over the Marlins. Starting for the Phillies, Zach Wheeler, in his first appearance for them after signing with them after being on the New York Mets, he would pitch 7 innings, only allowing 1 earned run and 5 hits, striking out 4. And additionally, Bryce Harper would finish 1 for 2 with 2 walks. And Philadelphia designated hitter Phil Gosselin would finish 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs, as he had 2 home runs on the day for the Phillies. They had an overall very, very good game, but now following this matchup, all NL East teams are now 1-1. And moving out west, the Oakland Athletics would host the Los Angeles Angels for the second game following the walk-off home run the night before, but this time the Angels would get their revenge, putting on 3 runs in the 5th to eventually secure their 4-1 win over the Oakland Athletics. Los Angeles Angels starting pitcher Dylan Bundy would finish the game pitching 6.2 innings, only allowing 1 run and 3 hits and striking out 7 in that time. Elite center fielder Mike Trout would finish 0 for 4 with a strikeout. And additionally for the Oakland Athletics, Matt Chapman, the Oakland A's third baseman, would finish 0 for 4 on the night as well. And following this, neither team would have the lead in the AL East, because the Houston Astros at home would end up beating the Mariners for the second game, giving them a 2-0 record, as Lance McCullers Jr. only allowed 2 runs in the 6 innings that he pitched with 6 strikeouts. Additionally, Jose Altuve would come in. He would be 1 for 2 with 2 runs on the day, and he also had 2 walks. Alex Bregman, the Houston Astros third baseman, would finish 1 for 4 on the day. Additionally, Altuve would go on to steal his very first base of the season, as the Astros with their 7-2 win now have a 2-0 record and are now in the lead in the American League West. And moving on to the last team in the American League West, The Texas Rangers would go on to host the Colorado Rockies in the second game of their series. In this one, the Colorado Rockies would win and even up the series this time, as neither pitcher would pitch more than 5 innings, but Mike Minor, for his start, would only allow 1 run in 5 innings for the Texas Rangers. But it ended up going on to the later innings. But the Texas Rangers really tried to come back as they scored a run in the 9th inning, but eventually they just couldn't make it. Nolan Arenado, the Colorado Rockies third baseman, would finish 1 for 2 with 1 run on the day and 2 walks. And additionally, both teams would finish 1-1. The Rockies moving up and inching closer and closer to the Dodgers in the NL West, who currently just came off of a loss against the San Francisco Giants, as the Giants scored all 5 of their runs in the first 4 innings in Dodger Stadium, against Alex Wood in the first 3 innings, and then, of course, against Santana. But the San Francisco Giants would come through, but the Dodgers would come back as they scored 3 runs in the last 2 innings, but in the end it wasn't enough. Right fielder Mookie Betts would finish 0 for 5 on the day with a strikeout. Their elite center fielder Cody Bellinger would finish 1 for 5 with 2 runs on the day. And with this loss, the Dodgers still have 2 wins, which is tied with the Padres. Still have 1 loss, but the Padres are still undefeated after getting their second win against the Arizona Diamondbacks at home, where their new up-and-coming starting pitcher, Dinelson Lamet, would end up pitching 5 innings, only allowing 1 earned run and striking out 8 in his MLB debut, as he kept the Arizona Diamondbacks to 1 run, where the only run they would score all game. And the Padres basically scored off 2 home runs all game. They was off a 3-run home run by Will Myers in the 4th and a 2-run home run by Manny Machado in the 7th. Manny Machado would finish 1 for 4 with 1 run, 2 RBIs, naturally, like I just said. Their elite shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., would finish 1 for 3 on the day, no RBIs. And following this, the San Diego Padres now have the best winning percentage in the National League West. They still have 2 wins, which is tied with the Dodgers, but right now they have no losses, and I imagine this series is going to carry into today. And with that all said, as we look at how the teams are spread out, because of course most of the teams have only played 2 games. The entire American League East is 1-1. The entire American League Central is 1-1. The Houston Astros are winning the AL West with a 2-0 record. The Seattle Mariners are at the bottom, 0-2. But the Angels, the A's, and the Rangers are all 1-1. Moving on to the National League East, all teams are 1-1 in the NL Central. The St. Louis Cardinals are 2-0. The Pittsburgh Pirates are 0-2. And the Cubs, Reds, and Brewers are in the middle. They're 1 game behind St. Louis. And moving out to the National League West, the San Diego Padres currently have the best record in the NL West. The Dodgers are half a game behind them at 2-1. The Rockies are 1-1 in the very middle. The San Francisco Giants are 1-5, half a game behind the Rockies, and the Arizona Diamondbacks at 0-2, or half a game behind the San Francisco Giants. And following these games, I would say the best hitting performances are tied. One goes to Leury Garcia, who is the second baseman for the Chicago White Sox, who finished 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs, and he had 2 home runs on the day for them. And also, Philadelphia Phillies designated hitter Phil Gosselin finished 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs, and he had 2 home runs on the day himself. For both having just elite home run outings, I would give them both the best hitting performances of the day. And the pitching performance of the day belongs to the Cardinals' Adam Wainwright for only allowing 3 hits and 1 earned run in 6 innings and striking out 5 to help secure the National League Central lead for the St. Louis Cardinals, as they are the only team in that division to have 2 wins in their first 2 games. And I have 2 plays of the day. The first play of the day goes to Jacoby Jones, who is the center fielder for the Detroit Tigers, who in the top of the 9th inning broke the 4-4 tie with a 2-run home run in the top of the 9th to give the Detroit Tigers the lead, to give them the 6-4 win over the Cincinnati Reds. That would be the tie-breaking run that gave the Tigers the win over the Reds. And the second play of the day, the play of the day for me, would have to go to Marcell Ozuna, the new Braves designated hitter that they just got from St. Louis, who would hit a home run while the Braves were down 2-1. Being held to their last out, being held to their last pitch. Marcell Ozuna would then hit the home run to the opposite field, which would send the Braves and the Mets into extra innings, where the Braves would eventually secure the win. Either play goes, but both of those plays did really go down. But all in all, today was a really great day of baseball. And moving on, the WNBA would have their first games of the season as the Seattle Storm would take on New York Liberty. And this matchup would feature the reigning MVP Brianna Stewart versus the incoming Sabrina Ionescu from Oregon, who basically averaged a triple double at Oregon. Not basically, but to a certain degree, she did. Brianna Stewart would finish with 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists in the 28 minutes. And then Sabrina Ionescu would finish with 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists in her WNBA debut. Also, the Los Angeles Sparks beat the Phoenix Mercury 99-76 behind Agumike's 21 points and 7 rebounds. Candace Parker also threw in 13 and 7 rebounds to help out. Last but not least, the Washington Mystics beat the Indiana Fever 101-76 behind Hines Allen's 27 points and 10 rebounds. And those would basically be that was what's going on in sports yesterday. And continuing today, there's definitely a lot more baseball. The WNBA is picking up. But looking at today's matchups, because of course it's Sunday, you're going to see a lot of early morning games. It looks as though Patrick Corbin's going to start for the Nationals against the Yankees. I'm not sure who the Yankees are going to put on now. They haven't officially announced. Blake Snell is going to make his debut for the Tampa Bay Rays. He won the AL Cy Young a couple years ago. One of the games I'm definitely going to be looking out for is Kenta Maeda versus Reynaldo Lopez in the Minnesota Twins Chicago White Sox series. Also, Zach Greinke's making his debut against Yusei Kikuchi on the when the Mariners play the Astros for their Game 3. Also, moving on to the afternoon games, Shohei Ohtani is going to make his pitching debut against the Oakland Athletics versus Mike Fiers. Corey Kluber is also going to make his debut against Kyle Freeland at the Colorado Rockies at 2:35. That might actually be the best pitching matchup of the day. And moving down to the later games, Sean Newcomb faces off against Rick Porcello as the Braves play the Mets on ESPN at 7. And late night, it looks as though the Giants are going to play the Dodgers for their 4th game of their series. The Giants haven't announced their pitcher, but the Dodgers are going to start their youngin' Julio Urias. And moving to the soccer stage, I'm not really going to get started with soccer full steam until Champions League. But for now, the last matchup of the Premier League is happening today. And right now, they're all going to happen at 11 p.m. And 2 of the big matches to look forward to are Leicester City versus Manchester United. And also it's going to be Chelsea versus Wolverhampton Wanderers, because those 4 teams are competing for the last 2 Champions League spots in the Premier League behind Liverpool and Manchester City. And those are going to be 2 of the biggest games. So I would say that those 2 games I would definitely keep an eye on myself. But without further ado, I really appreciate you for hearing me out. If you ever get a chance to just check out a lot of these sports that I'm talking about, and I'll really try to get everyone involved as I get more into the craft, of course. But with that said, I appreciate you for hearing me out. Peace out, and I wish you well. And I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday.